Can one weapon truly end a 1,000-year empire? Can a single deafening blast of fire and metal bring down walls that have defied centuries of armies, centuries of famines and sieges? This is the story of Constantinople in the spring of 1453. It is a tale of a city that was more than just a capital. It was a symbol. It was the heart of the Byzantine Empire, the last remnant of ancient Rome. For over a millennium, its golden domes and towering walls had watched the world change, a bastion of faith and power, a city they called the Queen of Cities. But now its time was running out, and its fate rested on ancient defenses. The year is 1453. The date is April 6, 1453. On the plains outside the western walls of Constantinople, Mehmed II watches his army assemble. One cannon ended a 1,000-year empire. Constantinople was a fortress built by geography and by genius. It sat on a triangular peninsula, a natural stronghold at the crossroads of Europe and Asia. To the north, the calm waters of the Golden Horn provided a perfect, sheltered harbor. To the south, the swift currents of the Sea of Marmara formed a natural barrier. The only land approach was from the west, and here the Byzantines had constructed their masterpiece of defense, the Theodosian walls. These were not a single wall but a complex system of fortifications stretching for 4 miles. For nearly 1,000 years, these walls had done their job. They had repelled the Avars, Arabs, Bulgars, Rus. Attackers who managed to cross the moat would be trapped in a killing ground between the two walls, exposed to a rain of arrows, stones, and boiling oil from the towers above. The city's defenders had perfected the art of siege defense. They knew every stone, every gate, and every secret passage. This immense physical strength gave the city a sense of permanence. The city was a treasure chest, and the walls were its unbreakable lock. But by 1453, the jewel inside the chest had lost its luster. The Byzantine Empire was a ghost of its former self. The once bustling metropolis of 1 million people now held perhaps 50,000 souls. There was not enough money for a large army, not enough men to garrison the walls. The city was a giant's robe, now worn by a shrunken man. The emperor, Constantine XI, was a leader worthy of his city's long history. He was determined not to be the emperor who lost the capital. He rallied his small force, a mix of around 7,000 professional soldiers and citizen militia. He was aided by the Genoese expert soldier Giovanni Giustiniani Longo, who brought 700 men and skill in siege warfare. They knew they were outnumbered 10-1, but they had faith in their walls, their commander, and their cause. They were defending their homes, their history, and the center of their world. Their greatest hope, the Theodosian walls, a triple line of fortifications. They trusted in stone, in God, and in their own courage. But outside, the sound of the future was being loaded into the mouth of a cannon. The story of the fall is the story of this confrontation. Across the plains, a very different kind of leader surveyed the city. Sultan Mehmed II was not a man bound by tradition. He was a product of the New Age, a scholar, a warrior, fluent in multiple languages, obsessed with Alexander and Julius Caesar. From the moment he took the throne, he had one ambition: Constantinople, the red apple, the prize that would legitimize his empire and its trade. He found a Hungarian engineer named Orban, first spurned by Byzantium for lack of funds. Mehmed had wealth. He told Orban, "Cast me a cannon of such size that its shot will demolish the walls of Babylon itself." Orban delivered. The Great Bombard, over 27 feet long, required hundreds of men and 60 oxen to move. Its marble cannonball weighed over 1,200 pounds. The roar shook the earth and sent black smoke into the sky. Its blows shattered stone and mortar, while smaller cannons targeted weak points for the killer strike. On April 6, 1453, the siege began. The great Ottoman camp spread out before the land walls, a city of tents, men, and horses that stretched for miles. The air filled with preparation, the hammering of blacksmiths, the shouts of officers, the prayers of men facing battle. Then came a new sound. Mehmed's cannons opened fire. The great bombard roared. Its first massive stone projectile smashed into the walls near the Carisian gate, gouging the ancient stone. Giustiniani led defenders to the impact. They could not rebuild under fire. They built earthworks, stockades, and rubble barriers instead. Each night, men, women, and children repaired the damage by torchlight to absorb the next day's shots. The constant thunder stole sleep. The ground trembled. For many, it sounded like the world was ending. Archers harassed the walls, miners dug, Byzantines countermined, fighting terrifying battles in darkness. For weeks, the grim rhythm of the siege continued. By day, the Ottoman cannons roared, reducing sections of the mighty Theodosian walls to rubble. The bombard focused on the Lycus River Valley, where the wall was lower. Each shot was like a hammer blow from a giant. The outer wall was obliterated, and the inner wall showed deep, gaping wounds. They called this the broken wall, the focal point of their desperate struggle. Giustiniani and his men were everywhere, directing repairs, organizing counterattacks, inspiring the exhausted. They used small cannons against siege engines and threw Greek fire, flame that burned on water, onto enemy towers. A small flotilla of 4 ships, 3 Genoese, 1 Byzantine, fought through the Ottoman fleet with supplies, a great boost to morale. But Mehmed was relentless. His cannons did their work. The defenders repaired almost as fast. Impatient, the Sultan ordered a major assault. Thousands charged with ladders and hooks, but defenders met them with arrows, stones, and lead, fighting hand to hand. The attack failed with heavy losses. Mehmed realized pounding the walls was not enough. He needed to stretch the defense and break their spirit. His eyes turned to the north, to the calm waters of the Golden Horn. A massive chain guarded the harbor, the city's lifeline and soft underbelly. What Mehmed planned next seemed impossible. He would take his ships over land on a road of greased logs. Dozens of galleys slid over the hills of Galata, sails unfurled, drums beating a triumphant rhythm. By morning, over 70 vessels floated inside the Golden Horn, bypassing chain and fleet. Constantine had to divert precious soldiers and ships to the sea walls. The city was now completely surrounded. A counterattack with fire ships failed. The loss of ships and sailors, a flame under the enemy's shadow, crushed morale. The noose tightened. The end felt terrifyingly close. Hope faded like a dying candle. In the final week of May, doom hung over the city. The Lycus wall was now a sloping mound held by courage. Mehmed offered surrender to spare the people. Constantine could leave with court, treasures, and rule a small part of Greece. The emperor refused to abandon his city. "As to surrendering the city to you," he wrote, "it is not for me to decide, for all of us have reached the mutual decision to die of our own free will." On May 28th, the cannons stopped. Fires lit the enemy camp. Celebration mixed with preparation. Inside the city, priests and cardinals marched side by side, blessing the weary defenders. Hagia Sophia overflowed. Soldiers and citizens, rich and poor, Greek and Italian, prayed, confessed, received communion. When the service ended, the emperor returned to the walls to await the dawn and the final attack. Just after 1 in the morning on Tuesday, May 29th, the attack began. Horns, trumpets, drums. Allahu Akbar! Mehmed launched 3 waves. First, the Bashi bazooks, poorly armed, thrown forward to exhaust the defenders. For 2 hours they hurled themselves at the broken wall and died in heaps. Next came disciplined Anatolian regiments. More skill, more pressure. The fighting became a brutal struggle in choking smoke and pre-dawn dark. Disaster struck. A cannonball smashed into Giovanni Giustiniani, Gravely wounded, he was carried from the wall. The sight shattered morale. Mehmed unleashed his ultimate weapon, the Janissaries, fresh, disciplined, relentless. A small unlocked gate, the Kerkaporta, was found. Ottomans streamed in and raised their standard. The cry, "The city is taken." Panic spread. The long-held line broke. Constantine saw all was lost. He cast off his imperial purple, keeping only his sword and armor.
"The city has fallen, and I'm still alive."
He and his last loyal men charged into the flood of steel. He was never seen again. The fall of the city descended into chaos. Thousands sought sanctuary in Hagia Sophia, but the doors were broken and the congregation taken captive. The great church was looted, its icons smashed, mosaics covered, altars desecrated. Later that day, Sultan Mehmed II entered the city, not as a destroyer, but as a conqueror. He ordered the looting to stop and declared Hagia Sophia a mosque. He had won his prize. Constantinople, the red apple, was his. News sent shockwaves across Europe. It was seen as catastrophe, even divine punishment. Trade routes broke. Europeans sought new seas, Columbus to the Americas, Vasco da Gama around Africa. Greek scholars fled with knowledge, fueling the Renaissance. 1453 was more than an ending. It showed how a new technology, the Great Canon, could render ancient strengths obsolete. Even the mightiest symbols are fragile. The walls stood 1,000 years, then fell to a new idea and a new world.